And a very good Sunday evening. I'm meteorologist Joe Bartosik coming to you from the Alaska News Source Digital Desk. Want to be able to welcome in our viewers, streamers coming to viewing this on our YouTube channel now, on all of our streaming platforms, apps, whatever, and also from our regular streaming line as well. Glad to have you with us. It is something that we do regularly on a Sunday evening. Looks like probably going forward, we're going to shoot for this 7:30, 7:45 time frame going forward, so we're going to make a commitment to try to stick to that, so just throw that out there. Anyway, with this time of on Sundays, we try to look ahead to the week that is coming up and take a look, as I said in my description, the different weather players, all the different things that are starting to come together in the atmosphere that will be shaping the weather for especially South Central, but of course across the state as well. We're going to, of course, kind of I'm not too restricted by time. Obviously, we're not going to go very long, but we're not constricted to a 3 to 4 minute weathercast like we are during a regular on-air broadcast. So I can spend a little bit more time kind of explaining the whys and the hows and all that kind of good stuff. And we actually do have a fairly busy week ahead, not just necessarily for anything active that's going on, but kind of also just looking ahead for any kind of different types of situations. Of course, we've got spring breakup coming up, but also being in Alaska, we are in a seismic zone, so that means earthquakes, and of course, that means the threat for tsunamis. And remember, tomorrow, March 27th, is the 59th anniversary of the big earthquake that happened in Prince William Sound, 9.2. That happened, and it was on Good Friday that year. It's called the Good Friday earthquake. And of course, there was a large tsunami that was triggered by that. It kind of devastated Seward, which is why we have, which is why we have the Tsunami Warning Center here in the Palmer area. All of that came to fruition as a result, as a direct result of that earthquake that took place back in 1964. So. On the 29th, the 29th is going to be a big day this week. First, we're going to have a tsunami warning system test that's going to be broadcast by the Alaska Broadcasters Association in conjunction with the Tsunami Warning Center, the National Weather Service, and emergency management offices throughout the coastal areas of the entire state, as well as state emergency managers as well. So, are you in a tsunami zone? Well, if you are on the Pacific coast of anywhere along Alaska, so all the way from the Aleutians through Kodiak on into Prince William Sound and all the way down into Southeast, yes, you are likely in that particular tsunami zone. So you need to pay attention. And the critical thing for Wednesday is that at 10:15 there is going to be radio, TV interruptions in terms of just voice or sound. Not necessarily that the broadcast picture will change, but there will be a voice that comes over and say, "This is a test." And remember, it will be a test at 10:15 unless some other big seismic activity occurs, and then there will be a series of communications that come out that's saying that will be canceled. And of course, if it's a big thing, then obviously that will take precedence. But however, at 10:15, do expect, especially if you're in like the Valdez area, in the Seward area, Kodiak, some of those sirens may actually go off, but it is not for anything that is occurring. It is just a test of the entire system. It is good to do fairly frequently, kind of like how you're supposed to test your smoke detectors every 6 months when we change the clocks, roughly thereabout, right? So it's always just a good general practice in order to do so, to help remind us what we need to do if we are in a tsunami zone, where to go, the highest point, the quickest point, the safest point to go, and make sure that you have all of your supplies and necessary, not just for the quake itself, but of course for a tsunami. Basically, you just need to know where you're going to go, how you're going to get there quickly, where you're going to meet up with family, friends, etc. During a time like that. So good practice. Start to go ahead and get ready for that on Wednesday. Also on Wednesday is going to be spring breakup, the next report coming out from the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center here in Anchorage with the National Weather Service. And obviously many of the rivers completely still frozen over, although fortunately we are starting to melt quite a bit of snow, and we are doing so gradually, which is certainly great news. Remember that April is actually our driest month of the entire year. I think March is the close second. So yes, we've had below normal snowfall for March. That's pretty good. Let's hope that that continues heading on into April. We do get several inches of snow on average. It's still under 10, but still we can get a sizable snowstorm during the first half of the month of April. So technically we're not, or statistically we're not quite done yet. But as long as we continue to gradually melt the snowpack, that is certainly some good news. All right, let's go ahead and take a look next here at there we go. Everything's breaking up there. Now we're going to continue to see our look at our temperatures for the day today. It was definitely a chilly one. Oh, but before that, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow is Seward's Day. Happy Seward's Day. Again, when Seward helped to purchase Alaska from Russia and bring it on into the United States as a territory. So in commemoration of that, Lori actually conveniently spotted 4 ptarmigans there in Willow, coming out of their burrows along some of the mountain sides there. That's why they're white in the wintertime, because they burrow up in the slopes and kind of blend on in with their surroundings. Great survival mechanisms that Mother Nature throws throughout the different species. So pretty remarkable there. Good to see them coming out, maybe starting to look for food. It's getting ready to go into mating season, of course, so another sign that spring is definitely here, as again, both meteorologically and astronomically, we are into spring officially. All right, now we're going to go ahead and take a look back at low temperatures this morning. It probably felt like winter, especially down across the Kenai, all the way from Portage and Kenai itself. 8 degrees for a morning low, 4 degrees in Soldotna, 7 in Wasilla, where we started off the day, 13 officially at Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. The warm spot was Valdez at 25. Again, amazing the influence of the water. But take a look at Glen Ellen, minus 11 up there, Burr. But they had a nice, incredible rebound with sunshine today, 27, 31 officially at Ted Stevens, as well as into Kenai. The warm spot was Cordova at 38 degrees today. Over the past 10 days, we've been more at or slightly above normal than at or slightly below normal. We've been about 3 to 5 degrees over this past weekend, but temperatures are actually going to warm back up to where we were throughout St. Patrick's Day weekend and on into the early part of the week, again flirting into the upper 30s, and with that fairly impressive 40-degree mark as we round out this month of March. As of yesterday, we had 29 inches of snow on the ground officially at the National Weather Service forecast office there, just next to Ted Stevens. That is down from our peak of 36 inches, which occurred on Valentine's Day, really, during the overnight hours of February 13th into the 14th. That's when we reached 36 inches. That actually surpassed the snow depth that we had after our snow blitz, that I like to call it, during that 11-day period where we had those 3 big snowfalls during the month of December, just before Christmas. So yeah, as long as we continue to do this gradually, at least spring break up in South Central should be a-okay. That's certainly what we're keeping our fingers crossed for. But again, that next report comes out from the River Forecast Center here on the 29th, and we'll be able to gather a little bit more information. Of course, they'll be taking a look at some of the climate modeling for the next 3 months, and that all plays a role in what things might be looking at as we head into those critical next 2 months of April and May for breakup season. All right, high temperatures across the state today. Take a look at these. This is actually pretty impressive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of these stations had high temperatures today at or above 40 degrees. So basically draw a line from St. George through King Salmon to Yakutat and Skagway and point south. That's where the 40-degree line was today. So not quite into Anchorage, only at 31 despite all the sunshine and filtered sunshine through those high clouds today that we had. It only topped out at 31 degrees. 36 for McGrath, though. Fairbanks above freezing for a daytime high at 34. And take a look at Kotzebue over to Dead Horse, 30 degrees. That's thanks to some very strong gusty winds out of the south, out ahead of a storm system that we'll talk about here next. But look at these impressive 24-hour temperature changes, 20 degrees warmer than this time yesterday in Fairbanks, 18 degrees warmer in Kotzebue, nearly 30 degrees warmer there in Dead Horse. Pretty remarkable indeed. Again, a sign of not just the warm air coming up from the south, but especially from Kotzebue to Dead Horse, Ukijavik, that extra downsloping component as those southerly winds come up and over and then down the Brooks Range. It's what's called downsloping, compress and heat and warm the air. It's basically like taking a big bicycle pump and pumping it down. If you ever felt the air coming out of a bicycle pump, it's usually warm, right? So that's exactly the warming effect that those downsloping winds have up there. For us, our downsloping winds are out of the east-southeast, which of course we get whenever low pressure systems come up out of the Gulf and in toward Prince William Sound. Whenever they move from in between Prince William Sound and Kodiak Island, that's usually why we've been saying, while the heaviest snows the past week and a half have been south and east, we've been looking at, again, those downsloping winds, the mountains acting as our friend because all that moisture dries up as that air compresses, sinks, and warms. All right, here's a look at those winds today, which were rather impressive. Not quite as impressive as the hurricane force wind gusts that we had yesterday, like around Cape Lisburne had 91 mile an hour winds yesterday. Teller, just to the northwest of Nome, had wind gusts in the 60 to 70 mile an hour range. So winds have come down as the energy from the main storm system, which is now well on up into the Arctic Ocean underneath the wind and the sun, the banner there. That's where that center of low pressure is, but still strong winds blowing 52 mile an hour wind gusts through Cold Bay today, and then near 50 miles an hour from Kotzebue, Point Hope, up to Point Lay as well. Again, wind chills, not really too much of a factor. Everybody staying on the plus side in terms of what it would feel like to expose skin with those gusty winds. The coldest right now at Anaktuvuk Pass with a wind chill of 4 degrees above zero. Still plenty of winter storm warnings, though, right through Tuesday, as this front is pretty much going to stall in an orientation going from Bethel up toward the Wainwright area. As we take a look at right along the Dalton Highway there, as you work your way up to the Arctic coast, areas to the north and west of Fairbanks through the Brooks Range and Anaktuvuk as well. We do have a winter weather advisory that is now in effect until midnight, Monday night, Tuesday morning, midnight Tuesday, for Fairbanks and points off to the south and west there toward the Alaska Range, and then eastern Alaska Range under wind advisory until Monday morning at 10 o'clock as well. Good news, blizzard conditions have subsided, but there's still quite a bit of snow on the ground, of course, around Seward. So there'll still be some blowing and drifting. It just won't be as severe behind the storm as that snow comes to an end tonight and winds begin to die down. So still some tricky visibility for communities along the Seward Peninsula there, but improving. But again, we'll be dealing with a lot of snow, anywhere from 4 to as much as 12 inches of snow, generally speaking, in that pink shaded area as we head on in through the next 24 to 36 hours. Otherwise, ridge of high pressure that was in control brought all that gorgeous blue sky, sunshine across south central. That's now sliding into southeast behind an area of low pressure that's moving down to the west of Vancouver. That area of low pressure, that little swirl that you see spitting down there at the bottom right-hand portion of the screen, that's what's going to be bringing more moisture, significant moisture on into the Pacific Northwest and California, which of course has really taken a beating. Two-edged sword there, right? They need the water, but the persistence and the heaviness of it, like being blasted one right after the other, not good news, again, because the ground has been so dry, there's been lots of fires, so the water doesn't really sink in where it needs to go. It tends to run off very quickly, but we got to be thankful for the moisture in that part of the country because of the decades-long drought that they've been experiencing. All right, back into Alaska and South Central, we're going to take a look at that ridge of high pressure. You can see the orange and the yellow going right up Cook Inlet and then on into southeastern portions of mainland Alaska. That is that sign of that high pressure ridge in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, and all of the cold air spawning the energy across the central and the northern Bering on in through the Bering Strait, the Chukchi Sea. That's indicative of that big storm system that brought the snow and the wind this weekend across western portions of the state. So that ridge will slide into southeast, kind of flatten out a little bit as all that energy now coming in out of Russia and over toward the far western Aleutians begins to slide eastward into the central Bering, and it will ignite another big storm system on in the Bering as we head into the middle part of the week, which will be impacting the west coast once again with more areas of strong winds, gusty winds, as well as heavy snow and blowing and drifting snow, again, all the way from the lower Yukon Valley up through the Seward Peninsula and on into northwestern portions of the state, the Brook Range, and the Arctic coast as we head into the middle part of the week. Take a look at that big blue ball going down towards San Francisco. Again, that's that same low pressure system that moved out of southeast on Friday and will be journeying its way down from north to south along the west coast of the lower 48. Meanwhile, that trough will start to slide into south central here into Wednesday. So Wednesday night into early Thursday, that's looked like our best chance of some, I guess, appreciable snow, likely mixed with or even just falling as plain cold rain with temperatures into the middle and upper 30s in the Anchorage area. Here's my favorite model, the European model. It is showing again that front just kind of slowly, painstakingly at that, sometimes moving across the interior portions of the state. And as it bumps up against the Alaska range, it's pretty much going to come to a halt, and a lot of the energy and moisture will be absorbed by that mountain chain. And then you can see clearing skies, a nice little break in the action for much of the state, at least through Tuesday evening, all the way from southeast, south central, increasing clouds though out across the west coast, all the way from the Kuskokwim Valley, the Yukon Valley over towards the Seward Peninsula and up toward the northwestern part of the state, the western Brooks Range area. But take a look at that big low pressure system moving up towards St. Lawrence Island. We'll see what's called secondary cyclogenesis, or a second area of low pressure developing along the peninsula toward the Kodiak area. That will eventually dominate and become the main weather system as we head in through the latter portion of this week, which, by the way, wraps up the month of March. And no April Fool's joke, its weather could still be active heading on into the first couple weeks of April, at least the first week of April. Last climate model that I saw did show a pretty good chance of above normal precipitation as we round out March, hence what we're seeing on that European model, and also continuing on into the first few days of April. But of course, we'll continue to watch that very carefully, as next couple months will be very critical for what lies ahead for breakup season. Again, not just on those rivers, but of course being able to gradually, hopefully, melt that snow without any significant rain. But we do have climatology in our favor in terms that April, again, is our driest month of the year. So that's certainly some definitely many pieces of the puzzle that we have on the table. But you know, somehow, just like last year, they all seem to just work out and fit nicely. Not necessarily how we want them sometimes, but yeah. I think that's about it for right now. Please make sure that you join us tonight on the late edition. Joe Kadat, myself, and Tracy. We have Austin, right? So tonight, or we have Jordan. Sports, Austin or Jordan tonight? We have Austin, and Austin John will be joining us for sports tonight as well. And of course, you can always keep up to date on all the latest news, weather, sports by going to alaskasnewssource.com, and you can also check us out online on air as well, and of course on any of our streaming platforms such as YouTube, and then Amazon and Roku as well. All right, that about wraps it. That about wraps it up for me on this Sunday evening. We got a show to do here in less than 2 hours, so I will see you, or you will see me then. And thanks very much, Tisha. You have an awesome week as well. Thanks, Sally, for joining. Sahariat, again, you're welcome for the weather report. And Duke, thank you so much for checking us in on Facebook. You all have a safe and wonderful week ahead.